Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Portage class starter flatbed lifter of the Survival and Defense series. My name is Wimperman, and I'm the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and Chief Dumbass of the Paul Soares Jr class update project. So I finally got round to updating one of my old builds that I made before the game was fully released, and this is the new version in front of me. But before we go through its features, I will show you the original vehicle, which is over here. And as I said during the intro, this used to be called the Paul Soares Jr class. Now, Paul Soares Jr is a YouTuber who used to make, or still does as far as I know, survival game content, including Minecraft and 7 Days to Die. In fact, it's because of him that I got into both of those two games. Now, I have renamed the ship because I'm no longer subscribed to him. I just, no particular good reason, I just didn't watch his stuff anymore, so I unsubscribed to him a while ago actually. But this is the original ship that I've just updated, and as you can see, the colour scheme with the blue on the silver there is based on the original colours of the portable constructor, which also used to be grey and blue, similar shades to that. Although it was painted, let's turn my HUD back on, it was painted before we could actually configure the colours, so this was all we had, and the blue is that one there. So, as you can see, that was one of the things that needed to update, its colour scheme. I'm pretty sure the reason these windows are like this is because we couldn't flip the polarity of the glass at the time. There are other things as well. So we can crouch now. And as I was building the new version, I had to crouch to get in through that door. And I don't remember having to crouch to get in through this one on the original. So, I don't know. And here's another change with the new version. We will cover it more later on. But in this one, the warp drive is on its side in that orientation, whereas on the new one I've put it lengthways. So CPU wasn't a thing when this was built, so as you can see it's a lot. Just in case you're curious, yeah, in fact the RCSs, the 4 RCSs are 300,000 of that number, and it really doesn't need them, because as you'll see when I fly that one, it's quite agile. Another thing was there was no weights and volumes, so the storage on board was these boxes. Right, actually I will come in here, I wasn't going to, but this was the space you got in the original. Now the other one, because the warp drive is lengthwise, there is a little bit more space in here, but that was the extent of in here. Anyway, right, that's enough waffling on about the original. Now let's take you through the features of the refit, starting with its role and task equipment. So as you can probably tell by the name on the workshop, its role is a starter flatbed lifter, which means it's intended for carrying around HVs and doing so at the beginning of the game. Now, in order to facilitate that role, it has a 7x7 flatbed pad on the back, and it's made only of steel, so I haven't included its structural frame that I normally do with my builds on this one. On top of that, I've tried to keep everything as low level as I can. Again, we'll cover it more when we get to the other segments, but all of the thrusters are small, for example. All of the fuel tanks are small. All of the O2 tanks are smalls. Aye. So, the next segment then is its propulsion and lift capacity. So as I've said, it's all small thrusters. It has 4 for forward thrust, and the same for reverse. They're even in the same places, except on the front of the vehicle. For vertical down, it has 4 again. For vertical up, it has 4 again that are on by default, plus another 2 that are on a max lift function. And then finally, its lateral thrust is 3 for pushing both left and right. It doesn't have any RCSs. It does have a warp drive, as I've already said. That's in here, in the big chunky bit. And as you can see, the fact that I've reorientated the warp drive has made the vehicle quite a bit bigger than the original, which I'm kind of okay with, but still. it would be nice to have a lower level warp drive maybe, but still. Right, its lift capacity. Actually, I'm not even going to bother just reading out. So there is some LCD screens on the cockpit, and as you can see, one of them tells you what its lift capacity is. So with max lift on in 1G, it can lift an additional 3,894 tons or thereabout. In 2G, it will lift another 1,691 tons, and in 4G, it will lift 590 tons in addition to itself. So, if this isn't the first tour of mine that you've seen, especially all of my HVs, because this is actually the first CV I've got round to refitting. But with the HVs, I was saying that I'm not sure whether you need to take that away from the number that the thrusters can lift, and that's enough, or whether you also need to double it for 2G and, oh my god, can you just go in the right place, thank you, and quadruple it for 4G. However, with this, I went and actually tested it, and yes, you just figure out what the total lift is for all of the thrusters. You then divide that by 9.80665 meters per second for 1G, and then you just take the mass of the ship off of that, which in this case is 511 tons. Then you do the same for 2G, except you don't double it. You just you divide the the newtons. There we go. You divide the force in newtons by, well, whatever double 9.80, because I was just halving the last one and then halved it again for 4G. But anyway, blah blah blah, that's beside the point. Right, let's give it a quick fly so you can see how it handles. Is max lift on. As you can see, there's also an LCD screen on the left that tells me what the shortcuts are, and we'll cover those more later on. But this is how she handles even without pilot mode on. Now, oh yeah, I normally show you, although again only with the HVs, but I normally show you the stats. So here we go, this is with max lift off. You get 56 meters per second squared for acceleration in forward and reverse and up and down, and then the lateral thrust is 42. Yaw 60 degrees per second, pitch 65 degrees per second, and roll 88. Now, considering there are no RCSs and it's all small thrusters, I think that's fairly decent. But it's because of, it's quite small and it's quite light, because it's, completely steel. So if you have a look at my Wimpo Manufacturing Terms, Definitions and Conventions Guide on the workshop, I'm pretty sure I do say it here somewhere. My the rules I follow. This is the rules I follow mostly when I'm building. Now I'm pretty sure it does say here somewhere about the fact that I don't build with carbon composite for SVs and CVs. I'm sure it does somewhere. It might be near the bottom. Anyway, irrelevant. So, considering that is basically plastic, I just don't think that a ship made of plastic would survive entry through an atmosphere of a planet. Although neither would steel, actually. I mean, you know, NASA's space shuttles aren't made with steel. Anyway, right. The next segment then, because that's everything with the propulsion and lift capacity, is its power, fuel and air. So power, it has 6 small generators. It has one in the very top of the, well, kind of in the nacelle pylon and the nacelle. It's sort of where they both join. And it has one in each. And then it also has 2 at the bottom of the pylon. So not far away from those ones, they're just there. Making 6 in total. Fuel, it has 4 small fuel tanks. One there and one there, and then the same again on the other side. On the sides of the warp drive there. It also has, obviously, a pentaxid tank to feed the warp drive. It has an O2 tank. It has an ventilator. And an, no, wrong side, O2 station. Oh, and it is, see, I'm starting to remember all of this now. Airtight. Just in case anyone wants proof. There we go. Look at me also pressing the correct button for a change. Right, the next segment then is its weapons, defences and construction. Well, I'm sure you've seen them as we've been flying around. Its weapons consists of the maximum number of allowed sentry guns. There is 8. There's 2 pointing backwards on the sides of the flatbed. 1 on each of the nacelles pointing sideways. 1 on top pointing backwards, 2 on either side of the cockpit and 1 on the chin. Defences, it doesn't have a shield and it has no armour other than obviously the outer hull, but it has no additional armour. And finally, its construction, well, as I've said, it's all steel. There are a couple of details that are carbon composite. I know that actually breaks the it won't survive re-entry rule, but shh, I won't tell anyone if you don't. Okay. Although that's steel, I don't believe that one is. No, that one. So this one's steel because there are stairs above it and they're a bit squishier. Right, the next segment is its resource gathering, production and storage. Well, it has no resource gathering, so that's nice and easy. Production, well, it has no constructors and no grow plots. I couldn't remember what they were called then. It's been so long since I've actually interacted with any grow plots that I couldn't remember what they were called. So, no production. Storage, it has the 14k SU ammo box, which is a slightly lower unlock level. Is it? I'm sure I used that because it's a lower level. Where is it? There it is. I mean, doesn't really matter because the ship itself is unlock level 10 because of the warp drive. Oh, Elion, can I just ask, what's the point in having the see it's like the shields on HVs again, where the shield has a CPU cost of more than what you actually have access to at that same level. It's similar to this. So I can build a CV with some O2 tanks and a core and some lights and some but I can't fly it anywhere until I get to level 7. What's the point in that? why isn't that down at level 1? So that we can build a starter CV at like level 1 or level 5 or something. Right, so, storage. The 14k SU ammo box there. There is an 80k SU cargo container on the back of the ship. It's accessible from the flatbed. Now, the astute among you will notice that there is nothing protecting the extensions there, and that is all there is. It doesn't go any further into the ship. It's just one layer. So you really should be careful. If you're carrying around some stuff in it, you ought to be careful with taking shots from behind. There is also one cargo box just there, and we also have an fridge just there. Right, the next segment then is its interior layout and any remaining devices. So you'll recognise, I mean, we've been in a couple of times, so the old version you couldn't go anywhere aft of that line because it was just devices. So likewise with this one, you've got these devices here and an elevator in between that takes you up to the cockpit seat, which has a fairly decent view. So when I built that, I had this cockpit idea first. Oh, and funny enough, it does look a little bit, just the front end at least, like the Alliance Chieftain et al. From Elite Dangerous. Then if we go back, we have a nice warning sign reminding you to take care past this point because it's going to be hot, and there's a little corridor going down each side of the warp drive where you can access these bits and bobs here. So, the remaining devices, we have a clone chamber on the left there on the port side and an O2 station on the starboard side of the elevator. We have the O2 tank is above the fridge and the cargo box is above an armor locker. The Wi-Fi is there and the detector ore is there. I think that's basically it. Everything else we've seen, although sometimes from a slightly different angle. Yes, I mean it's not a big ship, but there you go. The lights are on, the internal lights are on that sensor, and as you probably have been able to tell, the ramps and the light next to them are all on sensors as well. There's the sensor for these. Likewise on the other side, and then these are here as well, and these are there. Oh, and those ramps are that one and that one, just for symmetry. Right, the next segment then is its shortcuts and signals. So, as usual with my vehicles, although there will be some exceptions with others later on when I start building bigger CVs, the power save will be replaced by red alert and the power save will be moved down. But when it's a single occupant vehicle, it really doesn't need red alert. I mean, who are you informing if you're in it on your own? So device group shortcuts. The first one is its propulsion, etc. That turns on all of the thrusters apart from the max lift ones. The next shortcut down is max lift, so that turns on the max lift ones. Then we have nav lights. Now, unfortunately in Empyrion, I can't make most of this stuff automatic, so some of my builds in Space Engineers it was automatic. But unfortunately it's not the case in this game, but never mind. So if they get on your nerves, you can of course leave them off. The flight strobes, if they get on your nerves, they're not automatic. They really ought to come on when you're moving, but they don't. Ventilators, again, this is not the first vehicle where I have a ventilator switch. So if you happen to be in the atmosphere of a breathable planet, the breathable atmosphere of whatever. If you turn the oxygen off, it'll suck up all the oxygen and won't fill the ship anymore, but it won't save any power. So if you turn the ventilator off, it will save a little bit. Now in this ship there's one ventilator, so you don't save much, but at least it's something. Right, so power save does quite a bit on this ship, and as ships get bigger, ship it down to the ship and we'll ship it out of here. The power save will do more stuff, but that's what it does on this ship. It turns 4 of the generators off. I can't remember which 4 now. I think it turns off the ones in the nacelle strut and then the back one of these, yes. And I think it leaves the front ones on both sides. It'll also turn off the Wi-Fi, all of the light controls and the ramp controls. It'll turn off all of the holo projectors, including the registry projectors, which are on the side. To change the registry, by the way, I'm sure I don't need to explain this, but you go in here and change that. If you're doing it from inside, they're under registry displays in category 5 of devices, as I have labelled them. So the first one would be 001, which of course would be mine. So number them as you like after that. I mean, it's not like I would know if you numbered it 001 anyway. So it turns those off, and the ingress lights. So part of my lighting scheme is this light green light green that is at every ingress point, so that you can easily identify where you can go into the ships. So the turrets obviously deploy and retract all of the sentry guns. Oh, I forgot to point out, so I'll do it now. The sentry guns come set up for its general purpose targeting parameters, which as usual is infantry and hostile fauna, yes, as well as drones and small grids, including the weapons of those. The next signal down is its headlight. Oh, that shouldn't be plural, but never mind. So there's the headlight there, which does point forward and not diagonally. And the next one is its landing floods. Those are the 2 that you've been seeing on the front and back of the nacelles, and they are diagonal, and they light up some of the ground around the ship as you've landed. Right, it's important to note that when you spawn the ship in, this is how it comes. Its signals and shortcuts are turned on and off as such. It's just the ventilators that are turned on. Next then is the last segment, and that is its CPU and upgrading. So it's a tier 1 CPU, 199,900-ish out of the 200,000 that you can have. So it is tier 1. And for its upgrading, there is a space under the core. If you remove this block, you can pop a tier 2 extender in there. And there is a couple of spots where you can put more fuel. One there, take up that pipe, another one there. The same on the other side. There is also a spot here and here where you can put something extra. Maybe an additional cargo box, maybe more O2, depends what you want. And there is space in the nacelles for maybe more generators or more fuel. You can also obviously take the space up by swapping some of these out for medium thrusters. And because obviously if you upgrade this one to medium, it'll then stop you from upgrading that one and that one and that one to medium, because this block here is now taken up by the reverse thrusters. Same again on the back. I have given you some extra slots if you can, if you want to either put a medium or another small in there or in there, probably for lift, and an additional small for downward. And there are 2 more slots in the side for more lateral thrusters as well. Now there isn't a designated spot for shields, because that would make the ship a bit too big, and there also isn't a gravity generator on board or a slot for one. I mean, if you don't care about aesthetics, you could just pop one on the top, but yeah, there isn't. Unfortunately, in order to keep its size down, I mean, this was a holdover from this one where I wanted it to be so small that this was the interior. Even that didn't come with a shield generator or a gravity generator. I mean, if you're okay with carrying less stuff, I suppose you could put some on the flatbed. Right, so thank you very much for taking an interest in the Portage class. I hope you get some use out of it. And hopefully I'll see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.